Shalom and welcome to Temple Talks. This is Yitzhak Reuven speaking to you from south of Jerusalem here in the Holy Land of Israel. Today is the 10th day of the month of Elul 5785. It's the second day of September 2025. This coming Shabbat, we will be reading Parashat Ki Teitzei, when you go out to war, to be specific, which begins in the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 21, verse 10, concludes chapter 25, verse 19. Of course, we are still very much in the month of Elul, the month of Heshbon Nefesh, of soul searching, of taking account of ourselves, who we are, who we really need to be, who we were intended to be when God created us, and striving to achieve that in this upcoming year. And of course, it is the month of sounding the shofar every morning, that wonderful, beautiful, primal wake-up call, which just comes from the deepest parts of our being. That wordless cry, that wordless prayer, that wordless call to ourselves and to HaShem that we sound each morning. So I am going now to sound the shofar, and after that we shall resume our program. Here we go. Okay. Wake up, everyone. Wake up, my sleeping soul. Wake up and get ready. The King is in the field. HaShem is out in our world right now, making himself available, seeking us out and making himself available for all who seek him out, available so we can see, as Abraham said at the Akedah, the binding of Yitzhak, he said, in this place, on this mountain, God shall see and be seen. And we're at that place right now, the Akedah, where we have to lay it all on the line and give it all up for HaShem, with the knowledge, with the certainty that HaShem only wants what's best for us. And if we cast our fate, if we cast our lot with HaShem, we're going to be okay. And that is for today and forever. In local news, which I guess there's no local news here in Israel, all local news is international news. We are still at war. We are gearing up for what is being touted, and what will hopefully be the final push and crushing of Hamas in Gaza City. Gaza City is an area in Gaza which the army has not gone into till now, because that's where the remaining hostages are being held. And up till now, the debate has been whether Israel should go in there to crush Hamas, because that's their final stronghold. But if we do that, we're endangering the lives of the remaining 20 living hostages. So, of course, it is a very passionate debate here. Those who say, just make a deal with Hamas and get some of the hostages out, and then go to fight again and maybe get the others. And the other side of the debate is you're never going to get them all out by making partial deals, because it's Hamas's insurance policy. It's their life insurance to hold on to hostages. So we just need to go in and crush, and hopefully we can, at the same time that we are crushing Hamas, we can rescue or compel Hamas to release all the hostages in order to keep themselves alive. Either way, it's risky. Either way, the chances of getting all the living hostages out alive are slim. This is something that a lot of people really don't want to, here in Israel, don't want to admit. It's too painful, and I get it. And the other part of the equation is how many soldiers lives are you going to risk, and not only risk, but sacrifice in order to save 20 people? It's a horrible, horrible calculation that no one should ever have to make. But we as a nation and our leaders are compelled to make this calculation. It's not an easy one, and whatever they decide, there will be many people here very dissatisfied, unless, of course, a miracle occurs and we get everybody out. So it's very difficult times. But I personally believe, and I have believed for a long time, that partial deals are not the answer, and that we really need to go in and finish this. And we have other battles to fight. Unfortunately, even the day after we crush Hamas, there's still very, very likely to be a sequel to the 12-day war that we had with Iran. So much more to come, and just keep praying to HaShem, because it is HaShem and HaShem alone who looks over us, guards over us, and gives us our successes. And of course, in order to merit those successes, we need to be the best people we can be as individuals, as friends, as neighbors, as family, and as a society. And it's not easy, and there's always conflict and controversy, unfortunately. We don't seem to be able to get beyond that, but we have to do our best, and hopefully simply striving to do our best counts for something. In the same context, the army did actually manage to redeem 2 bodies of 2 Israelis who were murdered, if not the first day, but I think then early on in the conflict, which began on October 7, 2023, and their bodies were being held in Gaza all this time. The army was able to get some solid intelligence from interrogating prisoners of war, Hamas terrorists, and they were able to retrieve those 2 bodies who were buried this past week. One man was an older man, and he was the head of the security team in his kibbutz, and he was killed the first day, defending his kibbutz. And the other man, a young man, I believe he was kidnapped and killed soon after, and he leaves behind him a wife and an infant, a 9-month-old infant, meaning it's got to be older than 9 months. Infant, I guess. So I guess he was killed much later. He was taken hostage and killed much later. Wait, how does that work out? Oh, I'm sorry. He wasn't taken hostage immediately. This is much later. Obviously, much later if he had an infant. But the heartbreaking photograph that came out from the funeral this week was basically his infant crawling on top of his gravesite, and that kind of just sizes up what this nation has been going through day in and day out. Seems like this reality's like this. I apologize for being so vague about the facts and the dates. I plead guilty on that. Not nice. But again, this is our reality, and this is what we here in Israel has been going through and living with and facing for almost 2 years now. I heard recently an interview with someone from the United States foreign State Department establishment. I think he's in a think tank now. And he said that when he was critiquing Biden administration, he said that he felt that Biden felt at the beginning of the war that he could control Israel's response, that he could tell Israel what to do. and that Israel would listen. And he said he had no idea, Biden had no idea how deeply Israel was affected by what happened on October 7th, and that there was no way that he was going to be able to tell Israel what to do and what not to do. And he said he himself saw the famous, infamous 41-minute video, I think it's 41-minute clips that were taken on October 7th and assembled from the GoPro cameras of the terrorists themselves, and from their cell phones, and from the cell phones of the victims, and from security cameras, the horrendous things that took place that day, disgusting, sick, perverse things. And this State Department, state establishment figure, he said he saw that 2 years ago, and he said to this day he wakes up at night with a nightmare. So I'm sure you've all heard this all before. I'm going to conclude now, but it's important, very important. The world very quickly went on and decided who the victims are and who the good guys and the bad guys are, and it's not the way the reality is. And even just this week, it came out that directives been sent out to media outlets, establishments all across the world to try to sell the world on the next propaganda campaign. There was the genocide, which wasn't a genocide, starvation, famine, which wasn't a famine, all sorts of things. And in fact, Israel this past week actually killed the head of the Hamas propaganda apparatus. And this was a very big deal for us in Israel, because he was running a very, very, very sophisticated and highly successful propaganda campaign. Israel has crushed Hamas militarily, but Hamas, unfortunately, has been winning the war in terms of propaganda, because the world just buys it. I mean, it's a combination of Hamas being clever, and they've also, more information has come out. They've apparently have thousands of people involved in producing this propaganda that comes out. And Israel has been very lacking in presenting our side of the story, which seems to be a failing, a long-term failing of Israel. But it's an important thing. The propaganda war is also very important. And hopefully, with his death, we may see the beginning of the unraveling of their propaganda apparatus. Let's go on to this week's parasha, which is Ki Teitzei. As I mentioned before, it begins in Deuteronomy chapter 21, verse 10, concludes chapter 21, verse 19. It's really a grab bag of all sorts of things. Oftentimes a parasha, a weekly section, will have many different components, doesn't necessarily have a single theme or even a couple of themes. Sometimes there seems to be a lot of things going on. Sometimes there are very strong themes that run through the entire parasha, the entire section. In Deuteronomy, I'm sure everybody has witnessed, Moshe, who's doing all the talking in Deuteronomy, he goes all over the place, and he goes on tangents, and he comes back, and he recalls things, and he repeats things, and it is what it is. But Ki Teitzei really has no thematic coherence. It's a lot of different of mitzvot, a lot of different commandments, and one to the next there seems to be no particular relationship, but there is one semblance of a theme, and that is the opening section and the closing section of Ki Teitzei. Both have to do with war, and they're both very important teachings. The opening section has to do with the captive woman, Eshet Yefator. And the closing section has to do with remembering what Amalek did to us when we left Egypt. So I think we'll focus on those two sections. And do you hear that? I have a horrible, creaky chair that I sit in. It's a fairly new chair. It's been creaky like this from the start. I've oiled it. I've tried everything. Every time I move, it creaks and squeaks. And I imagine that you hear it. And I imagine that you've probably said more than once, why doesn't he get that fixed? I've tried. I've tried to kill that sound, but I have not succeeded. So, let's begin. Ki Teitzei. Hebrew then English. Ki Teitzei la milchama al oyevecha unatano HaShem Elokecha biyadecha v'shavita shivyo v'ra'ita b'shivya eshet yefat toar v'chashachta bah v'lakachta lecha leisha v'haveta el toch beitecha v'gilacha et rosha v'asta et tziponea והסירה את שמלת שוויה מעליה וישבה בביתך ובכתה את אביה ואת אמה ירח ימים ואחר כן תבוא אליה ובעלתה והייתה לך לאישה והיה אם לא חפצת בה ושילחת לנפשה ומאחור לא תתקרנה בכסף לא תתאמר בה תחת אשר עינית. When you go out to war against your enemies, and HaShem, your God, will deliver him into your hand, and you will capture his captivity, and you will see among its captivity a woman who is beautiful of form, and you will desire her. You may take her to yourself for a wife. You shall bring her to the midst of your house. She shall shave her head and let her nails grow. She shall remove the garment of her captivity from upon herself, and sit in your house, and she shall weep for her father and her mother for a full month. Thereafter you may come to her and live with her, and she shall be a wife to you. But it shall be that if you do not desire her, that you shall send her on her own, but you may not sell her for money. You shall not enslave her, because you have afflicted her. Okay, I think that's pretty clear. If you go out to war against your enemies, we learned last week when Rashi pointed out, because it also began, it didn't begin, but there was a section a lot about going out to war in last week's Parashat Shofar, and it mentioned twice when you go out to war against your enemies, and Rashi said, they're your enemies, don't forget that. Don't have pity on them, and don't do them any favors. You don't have to treat them nice. They wouldn't treat you nice. A lesson that we have a hard time really learning and abiding by here in Israel, unfortunately. I think we've been way too lenient for way too long. I'm not talking about being cruel. I'm not talking about gratuitous anything. I'm talking about this is your enemy. Treat him as such. But anyway, moving past that, the scene that they're depicting here, that Moshe, the Torah, is depicting, is you're at war, and you've won the war now. And wow, war is an emotional and physical exertion that is beyond what you would normally be capable of mustering. And you've been at it for who knows how long, and there's threats all the time, and the war's over, you've won, you're alive. And you're looking out and you see a beautiful woman, and you look around, and who's to stop you? Who's to stop you, victorious soldier, victorious warrior, from following your lesser instincts, from gratifying your lower instincts, your physical urges, and just taking that woman and doing with her as you will. Something which not only happens often in war to this very day, but unfortunately has become, maybe not has become, but has been even more systematically endorsed by terrorists and by certain armies as a method of war, rape as a method of war. It's done intentionally in order to help socially and mentally and spiritually and physically destroy your enemy. They're not talking about that here. They're talking about an individual who who is on the verge of succumbing to his urges and doing something which he shouldn't do. So the Torah doesn't say simply don't do it, because Torah, there's some psychology here. If you simply say don't do it, and the issue here is something that is a physical, primal urge that's driving this person, simply don't do it, may not work. A good chance it won't work. So the Torah says, okay, you can do this, but there are rules and regulations. And if you follow the rules and regulations, then you may take this woman as your wife, but again, you're making a commitment. You're making a commitment to this woman who you don't know, but she's beautiful. You are making a commitment to yourself. You're making a commitment to HaShem, because he's involved in this arrangement. And you have to follow these rules. And of course, the rules are you cannot just take this woman in the battlefield. You have to bring her to home, back home. And now you're in a different situation. You're back in society. You're hopefully, your nerves and your adrenaline have dropped down to normal levels. And you're within society. You're not alone where there's nobody watching. And you're back where there's rules and regulations, and everything that happens, everything that you do, there's right and wrong. And you need to wait 1 month, and this woman needs to shave her hair and let her nails grow in a way so that she will not be physically attractive to you during this period. So if it was this physical attraction, and you realize during this month of days that this was just a very temporary thing that took hold of you, then set her free. She's not a slave. You cannot sell her. She's not yours. Just set her free. She goes on her way. But if after all this you still desire the woman, then you can take her for your wife, and she will be your wife in every respect. And of course you have responsibilities to your wife. Again, she becomes your wife. She's not your concubine. She's not your slave. She's your wife. Okay, so we see how the Torah has dealt here with human passion, and how it has there's a Hebrew word, I'm trying to think of the English word for the Hebrew word, how it's directed this passion in such a way so as to bring it under control and enable the soldier, a former soldier, to make a proper, intelligent, informed, reasonable, rational, and perhaps even emotional decision. If he loves this woman, if he still desires her, then of course there's emotion involved, but it's in a normal circumstance right now. So that is the pshat. That's the simple understanding of this whole story, and it's an amazing thing because, again, we have, in our world today, there are, internationally drawn up and accepted rules of war. How armies should conduct themselves, how soldiers should conduct themselves. Of course, this is something that many of the nations of the world today, and the UN and the European Union are, keep hounding Israel about. And I will say this without any ifs, ands, or buts. Israel has conducted as moral and proper a war as is humanly possible. What Israel does in order to protect civilians is way beyond way beyond what any other army in the world has ever done. And there are experts, one who comes to mind right now, John Spencer, and then there's Richard Kemp from Britain, who are experts in warfare, and they study, and they've been studying what Israel's been doing, and they've been in Gaza, and they will testify that Israel has gone way beyond what is expected of any other army in terms of protecting non-combatants, etc., etc. So nobody can teach Israel the rules of proper warfare. And these rules that we abide by go all the way back to the Torah. You didn't just invent them in post-World War II Europe. We've had laws about how to conduct ourselves for nearly 4,000 years. And this is a basic law. These are basic rules right here we're reading about, because this is a basic phenomenon that happens in every war, in every battle situation. It happens. This or a version of it. And the Torah doesn't shy away from this. It never shies away from our humanity. The Torah never shies away from our human frailty. It understands us. It gets us. It knows that we're not always strong. And it doesn't expect us to be angels. And it doesn't berate us for our failings. What it does do, however, is guide us so that we can work our way through situations and work our way out of dangerous and detrimental situations. Now, having said all that, there is the famous, I call it famous, understanding parshanut of the Or HaChaim, who was a wonderful parshan, a rabbi, a Moroccan rabbi from, I think, the 18th century. Rabbi Chaim ben Attar, known as the Or HaChaim, the light of life. And he understands this section in a very different way. And here's how he understands it. The soldier who is fighting this war is not just any soldier. He's a ben Torah. He's a man who adheres to the mitzvot. He adheres to the commandments. He does what's right in God's eyes. He's a warrior fighting for HaShem's honor, fighting for this people, fighting for the land of Israel. And he is a good, decent person. And in the height of battle and in the aftermath of battle, he, like the soldier we were describing before, the adrenaline has kicked in and the nerves have kicked in. But in his case, it hasn't manifested itself in primitive urges. On the contrary, it manifests itself in a type of Ruach HaKodesh, a type of prophecy even. And he sees a woman amongst the captives, and she's beautiful. What's beautiful about her? And again, the Or HaChaim focuses on this v'chashakta ba, and his desire is in her. He doesn't desire her, he desires what he sees within her. What does he see within her, according to the Or HaChaim? He sees her spiritual beauty, because it's not the outer beauty that he's attracted to, it's the inner essence. And it's interesting because all of our matriarchs in the book of Genesis, 3 out of the 4 at least, are described as being Yafat Torah, being of beautiful form. And our rabbis say that, their beauty was, they were beautiful on the outside because it was the manifestation of their inner beauty, of their inner holiness. And I think that's true about anybody who's truly beautiful. Beauty is more than skin deep. And if a person is beautiful on the outside, really beautiful, it means they're beautiful on the inside. And if they're not beautiful on the inside, then that outside beauty is just like we read in Proverbs 31. It's just vanity. Anyway, this righteous soldier sees in the captive woman a spiritual beauty, spiritual purity, and that's what attracts him to her. And so, he's given the same guidelines to bring her into his home And again, the same process at this point, the same process to make sure that his prophecy isn't just a momentary thing, that after 30 days he still sees within her that initial spiritual beauty and purity that he saw at the very beginning. So this is a very different reading of those same words, those same verses, and I think both readings are very true. They're true of different people, but they're also true of the same person, because each of us have the potential to sink down to our primitive physical urges or to rise up to a higher spiritual level. We have it within us. Again, another beautiful lesson for the month of Elul. It's how we approach things, how we see things, how we understand things. And there's this concept of ayin tov in Yahadut, a good eye, meaning you see things in a positive light, you see the holy, you see the good in things. And if you are a person that sees good things will happen to you. Positive things will happen to you because you are seeing positivity and you're projecting positivity. In this case, the second soldier, he's projecting positivity. The first soldier, we're not even judging him. What he is feeling is quite normal, and if he takes the directive of the Torah, then he's not doing anything wrong. He's doing everything right. And that's also, we are what we are. We need to learn how to deal with ourselves as we are. We always try to improve ourselves. We always try to be a better person. But still, we are who we are, and we can't escape that, and that's who we need to work with. So if the Torah is giving us a rope, throwing us a line that we can climb out of a situation, it behooves us to grab onto it. Now, in the few moments that we have left, let's just go on to the very closing paragraph of Ki Teitzei, chapter 25, verse 17. Remember what Amalek did to you on the way when you were leaving Egypt, that he happened upon you on the way, and he struck those of you who were hindmost, all the weaklings at your rear, when you were faint and exhausted, and you did not fear God. It shall be that when HaShem your God gives you rest from all your enemies all around, in the land that HaShem your God gives you as an inheritance to possess it, you shall wipe out the memory of Amalek from under the heaven. You shall not forget. And we really don't have too much time to discuss this right now, but I want to focus on one thing right now. Here it says, you shall wipe out the memory of Amalek from under the heaven. You shall not forget. When the incident actually happened and is recorded in the book of Exodus, before Israel arrived at Mount Sinai, it says that HaShem will destroy Amalek. Here it says that we, Israel, need to destroy Amalek. So whose responsibility is it? And you've guessed the answer. It's a joint thing. Just like we read last week, how we need to go out to war and fight our enemy and not have mercy on our enemy, and HaShem will fight with us, and HaShem will deliver us and deliver our enemy into our hands, and HaShem will be our salvation. So it's always, we do everything we need to do, everything we can do, and we sacrifice, and we've been doing it for 2 years now, and God has been with us, and the miracles that have happened have been unbelievable. And too often we forget too quickly the miracles that have accompanied us, and the proof that HaShem is fighting along with his children Israel in this battle against these dark forces, this battle against barbarians, against a whole system of thought, a whole civilization that seeks to destroy all that's good in the world. And we are fighting, and our soldiers, some are going out for the 5th, 6th time and doing service. It's amazing, and God protect them, and God deliver our enemies into our hands, and God return all the hostages, living and dead. And God bless Israel, and God bless you all. Thank you so much for being with me.